You're listening to the Fantasy Football Podcast with Charles Barr and John Chapman.
Here we go with Fantasy Football ? With Charles Barr and Jonathan Chapman.
That's right. Welcome back for episode number 6. Goodness,
Episode 6.
it's going quick and it's going awesome. It's been an absolute blast and just glad to have you guys back. Thanks for listening. Let's get into some fantasy news. This episode's going to be a little different than our other ones. What are we going to be going over, Chuck?
Very different. We have a little surprise at the end too. First thing we're going to do is some fantasy news right off the bat. We're just going to list some things that might be relevant for you. Number 1, Gio Bernard fully practiced and stayed away from the pup.
I don't think anybody really expected this because everybody was expecting him to be on the pup, automatically assumed that Joe Mixon was going to be taking all those carries and Jeremy Hill might get some goal line work. But now all three of them are going, Jeremy Hill, Giovanni Bernard, and Joe Mixon. So it's going to be a little bit of a crowded backfield. I'd notch Joe Mixon down a little bit in drafts because his work's going to be limited. All three of those people are going to play.
I watched their practice live today, and Joe Mixon looked like a beast, though. He just looks like he's going to do it.
He's unreal. And I'll say this. If they had a better offensive line, I would be all over the Joe Mixon hype train. But if you look at Jeremy Hill, he's got the most rushing touchdowns since he's come into the NFL. That's not going away. As long as he's on that roster, at least for this year, he's going to get 8 touchdowns. Whenever he gets to the goal line, they're going to put him in, and that just limits what Joe Mixon is going to do. I think Mixon will lead the team in carries and possibly receptions, which is crazy, but the touchdowns, I mean, that's going to hurt him big time.
Jeremy Hill is on my trade watch list, so we'll see. Number 2, Carlos Hyde impresses early, even with all that talk of Joe Williams coming on, and Carlos Hyde is in there.
I told everybody, chill out. Like, Hyde is for real. You don't average 4.7 yards a rush in Chip Kelly's offense and then just get cut by a team in a rookie contract. Like, it's just ridiculous. He's in his 4th year of his rookie contract. The funny thing is they asked John Lynch, what player impressed you? That's all they asked. And he said right off the bat, Carlos Hyde. He came in. He's in the best shape of his life. He's super slim. Today was their very first day of practice, and he got to the edge time and time again. The boy looks quick.
That's awesome.
Look for people that are still trying to get rid of him because, man, he's going to be a baller this year.
I like him. Number 3, which this one's odd to me. Bucs plan to start Jacquizz Rodgers the first 3 weeks. Interesting.
Yeah, I couldn't believe they came out with that, but it makes sense. Whenever Doug Martin was hurt last year, they fed Jacquizz Rodgers the ball a lot because he's predictable, he's safe, and he can pass protect. You don't want to throw in, the rookie Jeremy McNichols that they got out of Boise State. You don't want to throw him in right away just because of pass protection. So this was expected, but for them to already come out and say it on the first day of practice basically just shows you Jacquizz Rodgers is going to be a good play for the first 3 weeks. He's going to get a lot of carries.
That's a guy you could probably draft pretty deep and have a starter for 3 weeks.
He's a great spot start. So I'd say this. If you're drafting rookies like Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, probably not Leonard Fournette or Christian McCaffrey, but if you're drafting running backs that you kind of have a question mark on how much work they're going to get, Jacquizz Rodgers is a great person to pair them up with that you can get super late and just plug them into your lineup week 1. And wait for Dalvin Cook or Joe Mixon to make sure that they're getting the boatload of the carries. And if that's the case, then swap them out.
That's a great strategy. I'm also a bit confused, though, because is it Charles or Chris Sims, the backup running back there? He looked awesome at times last year.
He did. Chris Sims was a quarterback that got ruptured his spleen. Charles Sims, he is the third down back there, which is really interesting that they use him as a third down back because he's huge. He's big and slow, but he is amazing in pass protection and catches everything. But it seems like the Bucs are not willing to give him a chance at anything more than a third down back. But having said that, if you're in super deep leagues, man, he's a great get that you can get almost free, and he's going to put up a lot of catches. He'll get 60 catches this year if he stays healthy. But that's kind of the big question is if he stays healthy.
At number 4, we have Isaiah Crowell and Freeman are close to extensions.
Oh, the Crow and Freeman. So I feel kind of bad for Devontae Freeman for the Falcons. Everybody was saying the whole offseason, oh, they're going to extend him. They're going to extend him. They're going to extend him. Talks didn't go well. And sure enough, today, like he had to report for training camp. So he went out and bought a $10 million insurance policy just in case he gets hurt. Because he's still playing on that rookie contract and he's not making much money. But I think he's going to get extended. Crowell's going to get extended, which is huge because I think if you're talking dynasty plays, buy on Crowell right now. And then on the flip side of that, if Freeman does sign this extension, which looks like it's going to happen, Tevin Coleman's value is you had the ceiling year last year. He will not pass that with the Falcons as long as Freeman's there.
Which is sad because, man, I still believe, and people call me crazy for it, I think he's the better back. He just hasn't had the opportunity. They actually restated what we talked about in one of our previous podcasts that coaches from last year's training camp said he looked like the better back. He looks amazing to me, and it's so sad that he's stuck there.
I mean, he's pretty special. I mean, you look at he's averaged 4.5 yards per carry, which is solid. And then yards per catch, I mean, they're up there too. I mean, it's absolutely unreal what he gets. Yeah, he had 13 yards per reception last year. That doesn't even make sense. That doesn't make sense for a running back.
I mean, I wish my Eagles would trade for him. That would be awesome.
There you go. You guys only have 7 running backs. I think adding more, that'd be good.
It's okay. Next, we have Doomsday. But Doomsday
I already know where this is going. The Ravens, man. I feel so bad for them, but I don't because I hate them. Again, being a Niners guy, I'm still very bitter that we lost the Harbaugh Super Bowl. But, so right off the bat, you get Kenneth Dixon. He gets his MCL messed up, or his meniscus, and they say, you know what, he'll just be out for a little while. Then they go in for surgery. Nope. Done for the year. Ouch. And then you got Flacco's back starts tightening up, and so he's on a 3 to 6 week kind of wait for it. Then their super smart center, John Herschel. It's funny because the NFL is promoting this guy like crazy with all the chess commercial. Have you seen the chess commercial?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's him. And so he was a center, which he was a backup last year. So he was the backup guard center, and he got some spot playing time. But they shipped their starting center off Zuta to the 49ers. They traded him. And so they were ready for this guy to step in and start, and he retires at a young age. And then they're not even done. This is 3 days. Crockett Gilmore, who they're looking at maybe being the starting tight end, 5 minutes into the very first practice, goes down, leg injury, slams his helmet down, and they almost have to carry him off the field, and it doesn't look good. So you're talking 4 key starters on that offense, major issues in 2 days.
I bet you Gary Barnage's phone is ringing tonight. We'll see.
I'm hoping it doesn't, because here's why. If it does not, and I've been saying this, Ben Watson, Bubba Watson, man, this guy, if he gets this start, if he gets to get this job and lock it down, which I think he will, I thought he would have before Crockett Gilmore got hurt personally. I mean, you're talking a guy that's going to get over 90 targets at the tight end position that is absolutely free and you can get in the last round of your draft. So if you are in a draft right now, get Ben Watson. Get Ben Watson, please. You'll be so happy.
With your very last pick, you could. So, all right, that wraps up our news segment. But this is a special episode. And one of the reasons it is because we're going to use John's nerd power to dive in a little bit deeper into fantasy football. So what this next segment is about offensive coordinators' correlation to fantasy production. You know, just a quick caveat, we're not saying that because of the offensive coordinator, it all falls on them. Obviously, players and talent and injury and head coaches, those things matter. But we're looking for offensive coordinators who have a body of evidence around them that suggests that they are a main factor in fantasy production.
And I'll say this, and this is a big mistake that a lot of people make, and it's not really anybody's fault, but coaching matters in fantasy. You can be 100% in love with the talent and think that a player is the next Joe Montana or the new Adrian Peterson. It doesn't matter. If the coaching is not there, then you're not going to have production. And so, I mean, if you just look at Todd Gurley last year, And we're going to talk about this.
Yeah.
Coaching, if you can create the offensive scheme to limit numbers in the box, then your running back will be more productive. Period. That's just simple X and O numbers. But if you cannot, and you have to play against an 8-man box and you're running back, your ceiling has been lowered from the start.
Absolutely. So take us through. We've got a few offensive coordinators who we've highlighted, and we're going to really talk about them in terms of relevancy. How much do they matter, either positive or negative? So let's start out with the number one guy.
Ooh. So there are 8 total new offensive coordinators in the NFL this year out of 32, which is pretty normal. And number one, I'm extremely biased, and he's an offensive coordinator, but he's also a head coach. And that's Kyle Shanahan with the 49ers. I mean, you knew I would go there first, right?
Yes, absolutely.
He joins – there's only 3 head coaches that are offensive coordinators now. Bill O'Brien with the Texans and Hugh Jackson with Cleveland, and now Kyle Shanahan, which is great. I was so glad that he did this whenever they hired him. He's hired because he's an offensive X and O scheme guy. And so I hate when new coaches get the job because they're amazing scheme developers or play callers, and then they give it away right away. Like, I hate that. You need to do it for about 2 to 3 years till you can train up your staff and they know what to do, and then take that over. And so I am so excited about Kyle Shanahan. What people don't understand, what happened with the Atlanta Falcons last year was unreal. They scored the 5th most points in NFL history last year. It was amazing. And if you look at what he has done everywhere he has been, he has just dominated. So he's been an offensive coordinator for 9 years, which he should have got a head coaching job a long time ago because he had success in Cleveland. If you can be successful in Cleveland, then that's like, you just should say, hey, I mean, Bill Belichick got fired from Cleveland. He couldn't do it there. So anyway, he's had a top 10 offense in 5 out of his 9 years as an offensive coordinator.
Wow.
Yeah, and here's the deal. So he brought over Brian Hoyer, who's their starting quarterback, which I understand. He's not even a top 20 quarterback in the NFL, but it doesn't matter. This is the craziest stat that I could find. When Brian Hoyer was the quarterback for the Cleveland Browns 3 years ago and Kyle Shanahan was offensive coordinator, they went 4-1. The Cleveland Browns went 4-1.
Wow.
And then Hoyer got hurt. Then they put in Johnny Manziel, and then everybody lost their job, and Manziel lost everything. But here's the thing. So you reunite Shanahan and Hoyer, which is awesome, but everything that he does is very balanced and efficient. Okay, listen to these. We're going to spend more time on this than some of the other ones.
Sure, I can tell.
I'm so happy right now. Here's the deal. Listen to these wide receivers that all led the NFL in receptions under Kyle Shanahan. Andre Johnson had his 2 best career years for the Texans under Kyle Shanahan. Pierre Garçon led the NFL in receptions under Kyle Shanahan. Julio Jones led the NFL for the first time in his career under Kyle Shanahan. In fact, Julio Jones' 2 best years of his career, guess who the offensive coordinator was? Kyle Shanahan. And then you look at the running backs. That's just the wide receivers. Steve Slayton. Do you know who the hell Steve Slayton is?
Man, I do, and that name is throwing me way back. I feel like I got hit back 10 years.
Exactly. Steve Slayton had over 1,600 total yards in the NFL in 1 year with Kyle Shanahan as the offensive coordinator. That doesn't make sense. Wow. Alfred Morris, he put up 2 years with over 1,200 yards. Devontae Freeman, 1,600 total yards, then 1,500 total yards. And again, all of this is just under Kyle Shanahan. So you've got to expect a huge increase for the 49ers. So here's what I'm going to say. At the end of each one of these, I'm going to say stock up or stock down. And I'm giving a gigantic stock up for every single person in the 49ers offense. Their fantasy stats are all going up, which really, that's all they can do. They were ranked 31st in the NFL in offense last year, so second to last. Yikes. So it's not going to get worse.
But that makes Pierre Garçon being the number 1 target there. I mean, that makes him pretty appealing to get deep, and around.
He will get 100 receptions. So if you look at what Larry Fitzgerald did last year, which he finished as the number 13 receiver Larry Fitzgerald did last year, that's almost exactly what Pierre Garçon is going to do. He will have 100 catches. I'll take that Vegas bet any day. Like, it's going to happen.
All right, stock up 49ers. Let's move on to number 2.
Oh, yeah. So I said a while ago, 49ers were second to last. So guess who the dead last place offense was in the NFL last year? I'm not sure if you know this.
Is that they're all in. They're the Rams.
Yeah. I love that. I was so happy that All In and Hard Knocks was with the Rams. The fighting Jeff Fishers.
Yeah.
They are so terrible. And just it's sad whenever your like all-star Pro Bowl player, Todd Gurley, is making fun of you like during the season. He came out and said, "We're running a middle school offense. Everybody knows what we're doing."
Wow.
And a week later, and he was correct. I mean, he was correct. But a week later, they all get fired. I mean, if you look at Todd Gurley, he averaged 3.2 yards per rush last year, which is 40th in the NFL just for running backs. Matt Asiata was getting more yards per carry. TJ Yeldon, more yards per carry than Todd Gurley. That should never happen.
No.
So anyway, they brought in head coach Sean McVay, which he's not the offensive coordinator, but they're bringing him over from Washington, and they are putting in the exact same scheme and offense that they have in Washington. So think, 3 to 4 wide receivers and a stud tight end. And this offense is going to go through the tight end, and he has already came out to say that he will use a third down back. So keep that in mind. Now, the offensive coordinator's name is Matt Lafleur, which Matt Lafleur is a really young guy that has been with Kyle Shanahan the last 5 years. So lots of ties here. Kyle Shanahan, I mean, he was with them in these years in Washington and Atlanta. I really thought he was going to come over to the 49ers, but Kyle Shanahan wanted to keep the OC tag. And I think if he would have gave that up, I think Matt Lafleur would have been the offensive coordinator for the Niners. But anyway, I digress. So pay attention to tight end here. So think about Washington with everything you do, and then take away all the talent, and that's what you're going to have with the Los Angeles Rams.
But still targets. Targets, though.
Oh, targets everywhere. And one of their tight ends is going to be a beast. So they had Tyler Higbee, which they got pretty early. He's a receiving tight end out of Western Kentucky a year ago. He had a good rookie year, but nothing significant fantasy-wise. And then they spent a second-round pick on Gerald Everett, who's a freak tight end from a super small school. And I'm telling you this right now, I don't know who's going to win this job. And I'm not saying to draft him. You should not draft Tyler Higbee or Gerald Everett. But what you should do is if you wait on tight end and you are really not happy with your tight end situation, week 1, whoever gets the most targets out of Tyler Higbee or Gerald Everett, pick them up on your waiver wire. Because I promise you, you're talking 70 to 80 targets for super athletic tight ends in an offense that does not have a go-to wide receiver. And so one of these guys is going to be a stud, especially in Dynasty because they're both young. Higbee's second year, Everett's a rookie. So pay attention to those two names, but don't draft them.
So because of this offensive coordinator, how much does that impact Todd Gurley potentially? Like, how much more does that raise him?
Okay, so Gurley last year had over 300 touches. 303 touches when you combine his rushes and receiving. That number is going to drop dramatically because he's already came out and said we're going to have a third down back. But so his carries and everything, they're going to drop to about 260 is what I think it's going to be around. But that's not necessarily bad news because that 3.2 yards per rush is going to jump up. I mean, it was over 4.5 the year before. So I think his yards, his touchdowns, everything is going to go up, but his carries are going to go down because he won't be playing against 8-man boxes because they're going to throw the ball and spread it out.
All right, moving on to number 3.
And I didn't say anything about Goff, so stock up Goff. Like, if you're in a dynasty league, trade for him now because whoever picked him is pissed. So try to get him. This is the cheapest you will ever get Goff in his career. I'm not saying he's going to be a top 10 quarterback or anything like that. But he is going off the board around quarterback 28, okay, in drafts. So get him now. And he's not a terrible play in deep redraft leagues. So if there's 14, 16 teams, he's not bad to be a second quarterback. He's going to have some great games. If you remember, I mean, he's got some talent. He put up 3 touchdowns against the Saints in the first half against them. So he can do it. He just needs a system. So his stock's going to go up.
In confidence. He needs some confidence.
Yeah, he does.
All right. So moving on to number 3.
Oh, man. Okay, so the first two were yay, happy, cherry, things are going to get better. The third one, it's just like super sad, strong sad. Anyway, that's the Falcons. Not only did the Falcons lose the Super Bowl in heartbreaking fashion, but again, as I said, they scored the 5th most points in NFL history. And then they lost their offensive coordinator, Kyle Shanahan, who I think is one of the best offensive minds in the entire NFL. So who did they replace him with? Somebody that's never really coached in the NFL before. He's had 1 year coaching in the NFL, and it didn't go well. Here's how long ago he coached in the NFL. He was a quarterback's coach. Person he coached was Kerry Collins with the Raiders. So you're going back away. So Steve Sarkisian, he's most recently known for being Alabama's offensive coordinator whenever they fired Lane Kiffin before the national championship. Nick Saban brought in Steve Sarkisian. Now, he's been the quarterback coach and offensive coordinator for USC way back in their glory days. So think Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, all that stuff. He was there, and he was one of the architects of that. So he's got some coaching skill, but then it gets pretty questionable. He became the head coach for Washington Huskies. Then he became the head coach for USC, and then he got fired. And do you know why he got fired?
I don't.
So I shouldn't laugh. He had a really bad drinking problem. That's not the funny part. I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at the way in which he was fired. So reports came out. This has nothing to do with fantasy, just pure entertainment. Sorry. He coached a game and won 42-14, wasted off of his ass. All of the players started texting, man, coach is drunk. He reminds me of my uncle, all that kind of stuff. Then he doesn't show up for the next practice. Like, he just didn't show up. So the team's there to practice. Head coach nowhere to be found. And so the AD calls him. It was Hayden at USC. Where are you at? Totally wasted. He's at home, just gone. And so they suspend him for a while, give him paid leave of absence. Then they have a booster event. He shows up at a fundraising booster event, wasted off of his ass. And they said, all right, we can't do this anymore. So he got fired. He went into rehab, kind of went out of coaching for a few years. Then Alabama picked him up. So anyway, all that to be said, he's never been a coordinator at the NFL level. He's replacing the most successful offensive coordinator at the NFL level. And they're already ready for a downturn. Even if Kyle Shanahan stayed in Atlanta, I would say all the numbers for the Falcons will go down. But with this guy who's never done it before and a defensive head coach, I'm telling you right now, stock down for every single person on the Falcons roster, except for Julio Jones. Julio Jones still going to get his because he creates on his own. Yeah. He's tied for the 3rd most yards after the catch in the NFL. Like, he does it on his own. But
so what you're telling me is that Atlanta got Kenny Powers. They got the Kenny Powers of offensive coordinators showing up, possibly going to be wasted.
Oh, man. He's down and down. I
can't wait to follow.
Yeah, I'm just saying, follow the message boards after the destruction takes place, because they're not even going to make the playoffs this year. I really don't think that they will. I love the Falcons. I love what they built. I love their young defense. But I'm telling you right now, they're due for regression. Wild card team at best.
Real quick, was there any truth to the rumor that Matt Ryan said that Kyle Shanahan calls plays too slow?
Oh, no, he sure as hell did. And this is weird, okay, probably not too much for fantasy football, but I'm going into it. So they were questioning Matt Ryan about the huge loss. You know, they were up 28-3 in the 3rd quarter in the Super Bowl, and they still lost it. And so Matt Ryan goes on record and calls him out saying, well, he was taking forever to get play calls in, so I couldn't audible when I was at the line of scrimmage. I wanted to audible the big play where he got sacked by Hightower and fumbled the ball and whatever else. Yeah, you go back. I went back and watched every single play, and they snapped the ball almost 90% of the time with 15 seconds left on the clock. Ooh. Not only that, Kyle Shanahan came out yesterday and said, well, we never got one delay of game call, so I don't understand that. Like, they were breaking the huddle with 16 to 17 seconds left. I respect Matt Ryan, and I love him as a player. Like, I love who he is and what he stands for, and, you know, he stays out of trouble, seems like a good, wholesome guy. That was just such a coward flake move.
Right.
And so I went straight to the game day film And I watched every play, and I was cussing up a storm, drinking some Irish whiskey, just saying, "This is bullshit."
And knowing you would go back and watch every play and be like, see.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't know how we are in time, but I think what we should do is just kind of go through the rest of the guys. I'll let you go through all of the rest, and just kind of give us notes and not go as in depth as the first three.
Yeah, so most of these aren't really that big of a deal. So the Jets got a new guy, John Morton. He was the wide receiver coach from the Saints, and this is just a last ploy effort of Todd Bowles, the head coach there, who I absolutely love. I really hope he goes somewhere else and is successful, but he'll probably stay a coordinator for the rest of his career. But anyway, they're trying to add a spread element to the Jets. It ain't going to happen. You can't do what the Saints do because you don't have Drew Brees. If you put the starting quarterback, whether it's McCown or Hackenberg, whatever, on the Saints roster, and you put him in there, they're not going to be successful. So nothing's really going to happen there. Their wide receiver one, whoever emerges, which there's 4 guys fighting for it, Quincy Enunwa, Rory Anderson, they were both there last year. Sharon Peak, who I think is going to win it. He was drafted last year out of Clemson. And then this year is Ardarius Stewart, who's just, man, Anquan Bolden. He's just not like a huge receiving guy, but he's an all-around football player that plays wide receiver from Alabama. One of those 4 guys will emerge, and they'll be a flex play, but that's going to be it. And then running back position, whoever falls out of Bilal Powell or Matt Forte. So as of now, go ahead.
Yuck to both of those as fantasy producers.
So like we could say that, and I totally understand it, but Bilal Powell's going in the 6th round right now, and Matt Forte is going in the 9th round. But if you look at where they finished last year, it's not the worst thing in the world. Let me pull it up here right now just because I don't want to do a disservice to these guys. They already play for the Jets. So I feel like accuracy is – Matt Forte finished as the number 19 guy. And Bilal Powell finished as number 22 running back. So you've got 2 running backs that finished as top 2 running back guys. So
I'm going to say that they didn't start on one fantasy championship team in the championship week. That's just a guess.
I don't know, man. So I'll tell you this. Bilal Powell, whenever he got the carries at the end – this is championship week, okay? Week 14 in the playoffs, he put up 34 points, 2 touchdowns, 140 yards rushing. Week 15, this is the semifinals, 27 points. And then the championship week, he put up 10 points against the Patriots. So he didn't make it lose, but if you had him, I mean, he went nuts towards the end. But anyway, I'm not saying draft them. I'm saying if they fall, it's not a bad route to go just because of the value. The problem is who's going to get most of the carries per given week. It's a coin flip type of a thing.
Gotcha.
Let's see here. The rest of these don't really matter. Broncos, they got Mike McCoy from San Diego. He was there in the past. He was the head coach for the Chargers last 4 years. And I'll say this real quick. He loves to throw the ball. 5 out of 8 years that he's been a coordinator, a head coach, they've been in the top 10 in passing. And so think about all the times that freaking Rivers is throwing that ball. They're going to throw the ball in Denver more. Now, the reason that this is a big deal is I think Paxton Lynch is going to win that contest.
Really?
I'm not basing that off of accuracy or talent. I'm just telling you, Paxton Lynch can throw the ball deep. Wayne Simeon can't. Trevor Simeon cannot. He cannot throw the ball far. And so I'm telling you right now, Paxton Lynch is going to win this competition. And if he does, Demaryius Thomas, this is huge right here, will be a number 1 wide receiver. So when I say number 1 wide receiver, I mean top 12. There's usually 12 teams in a league. So the top 12 wide receivers are number 1 wide receivers. The top 13 through 24 are number 2 wide receivers. So I think Demaryius Thomas is huge here.
All right. And then moving on to number 6.
Okay, so the Raiders, they just promoted their quarterbacks coach, and this was just to move Todd Downing to basically make Derek Carr comfortable. Now, the good news about this is Todd Downing was the quarterback's coach for Stafford in 2011 when he threw for over 5,000 yards and 41 touchdowns. He likes to throw the ball. Everywhere he's been, it seems like that's his MO. And so I could see them throwing the ball even more. So stock up for Carr and stock up for Cooper because, again, way back when Todd Downing, the new offensive coordinator, was in Detroit, he 100% had him lock onto Megatron because he's a superior talent. And I think they need to do that this year for Cooper, which I'm very low on Cooper as far as ranks go, but I think he's going to see a huge uptick. Now, negative, I don't know if he's going to be as committed to running the ball inside the goal line. Again, if you look at what they did with Latavius Murray, he had 12 rushing touchdowns last year. He didn't have a good year. I don't think Marshawn's going to get as many carries inside the goal line as everybody expects. He's going way too high in drafts right now.
People love him. I've seen him going in the top of the second round.
And I'll say this. I love Marshawn Lynch. I'm a 49ers fan, and I can honestly say I love this man because of what he stands for, his character, the way he plays, and just he's real. But that doesn't mean just because you love him and you want to buy his jersey and he's playing for the hometown that you skew your vision and disregard everything and go fantasy nuts over this dude. Because if you do, he's going in the second round in drafts right now. And if you draft him there, you're going to miss big time. You're not going to be happy with production.
Good note. Moving on to number 7, Bills.
Okay, number 7 and 8, I'll lump together because nothing's going to change. The Bills and the Redskins got new offensive coordinators, and nothing is going to change. Rick Dennison for the Bills is coming over from Denver, and he's already said we're going to run the exact same scheme. We're going to be a run-heavy offense, and you kind of have to be with Tyrod Taylor there. LaShawn McCoy will get more carries this year. I think that's going to be the case. He had 229 carries last year. I think he's going to jump up another 30 carries in the course of the season, which, if you look at him, he's averaging over 4 yards a carry, so that's another 120 yards. And then the Redskins, they got Matt Cavanaugh, who actually coached under Jay Gruden's brother, who's recently in the news saying he wants to get back into coaching. Chucky, did you see that?
No, did not. No, thank you.
Yeah, he's saying he's ready to get back into coaching, so I think he needs to go coach college ball. Him going down to Ole Miss, that would be awesome. Anyway.
I think a lot of people idealize him, and he's this mystical figure. Do I think that he has seen more football than most, and that's probably helped him? Absolutely. But, he came in and took over a Bucs team that was assembled by Tony Dungy.
Yeah,
and
I agree with that.
He had Hall of Fame talent all over that roster. So I'm not necessarily
Brad Johnson, come on, man.
Yeah. I'm not necessarily sold on him as this coach that's going to come and change the fates. Do I think he could be good and solid? I do.
I think he'd be perfect in college because the parents would love him. You mean to tell me you get that guy talking to a mom and why your son should come play for me? Like, dude, if I'm a dad and you're trying to recruit I want him playing with you. Like, I'd be totally down with that just because he's so positive and fun to be around.
Here's what's going to happen. Jack Del Rio is going to get the Raiders just to that cusp, and then
they're going to trade him.
He's going to come in, and the next year he's going to win the Super Bowl.
I wouldn't be mad.
Hashtag prediction.
There we go. So anyway, finishing up Redskins, nothing's going to change there. Jake Gruden is the real offensive coordinator there, and he has been. They're going to run the exact same plays, exact same scheme. Absolutely nothing will change besides Kirk Cousins leaving next year for the 49ers.
Yes. All right, so that wraps up this portion where we focus on offensive coordinators. If you have any questions about that, let's kind of just plug real quick. At JL_Chapman on Twitter, and myself is at host Chuck B. Anything else you want to add, John?
Yeah, at host Chuck B. We got the new Twitter up for the host. Go give that big guy a follow. And then JL_Chapman. So I've had a handful of people that have been screenshotting their drafts, whether that's MFL 10, best balls, dynasty drafts, so on and so forth. They're messaging them to me and asking me what I should do next and things like that. So I want to say this. Go to my Twitter account and message me. I follow everybody back. So if you follow me, I'll follow you back. That way you can message me, and I'll let you know some targets that you can do. So, again, I've had 3 or 4 people do this past week, and it's been a lot of fun for me. They'll send me their roster, and I'll tell them, look, is this person available? Okay, you need to target this guy right now because you've got gambles at wide receiver, so on and so forth. So if you're in a dynasty draft or any kind of draft going on, go ahead and screenshot me a picture of your draft, and, man, let's make your team better. That's what we're here to do. Yeah. This is just fun for us.
And John,
so we ain't making money. We're just having fun.
Show or not, that's just what he does. That's his purpose.
It is true. I was up about 2:00 in the morning breaking down somebody's draft that was in Puerto Rico. It was great.
24/7.
There we
All
go,
right,
man.
so moving into, we got a little special segment for you. You know, we got two things going on right now. We've got fantasy football fever, and we've got Game of Thrones, just the best show, just dominating. First two episodes are out, and I'm just jacked. And
Now, hold on. Are we doing spoilers here for the new season, or are we not doing
no,
spoilers?
there are no spoilers other than maybe some first season stuff potentially.
Okay, cool. So
Okay,
if you haven't seen Game of Thrones, hold tight because we're going to be breaking down some fantasy players and relating them to.
Yeah, so basically, I'm not doing anything out of the ordinary here. Everybody's probably having the same thought, you know, with fantasy football going on, Game of Thrones going on. Like if Westeros played fantasy football, what would happen? Okay, it's
I like it.
Okay,
I like it.
So with that being said, what me and my buddy, shout out to Danny Pollock, we kind of just, you know, we ran through what would happen. So I'm just going to take you through a mock draft 10-man team league here because not a lot of guys are playing in Westeros.
Yeah, they're starting the fantasy draft in 1993.
That's right. So here we go with the very first pick, Jaime Lannister. And it's no surprise he has the first pick because his dad probably somehow arranged for him to get it. And this is pre-cut off hand, Jaime Lannister.
Oh, so he's got both hands, so he's ambidextrous. I get it.
Yes. And that Jaime was more of a risk taker. You know, once his hand got cut off, he started to become more strategic. So this Lannister is going to take Le'Veon Bell with the first pick. He would take David Johnson, which is a sure thing, but he's more into risk, so he takes Le'Veon Bell.
And if he's related to Le'Veon Bell, that also makes the pick more attractive.
There you go. Booyah.
Because he has sex with his sister.
Yeah, I get it.
I don't know if you got that.
No, I got it. At the number 2 pick, Tyrion, which is like one of my favorite characters. And he understands where power lies and how to obtain it. He's the most political character. He's the most brilliant character.
He's my favorite, not even close.
Yeah, I mean, he's awesome. And so he'd probably be the best fantasy football player out of everybody in the Game of Thrones world in Westeros.
He's the hand to the king or queen. He should be.
Yeah, exactly. And so he knows he's got to take David Johnson at pick number 2.
Oh, so way to go, Tyrion. Way to go, Tyrion.
Oh, I'm rooting on him big time. Him and Jon Snow. But Jon Snow's not up yet. Next is the mother of dragons, Daenerys. So hot.
Yeah, factually correct. She is actually on fire and physically attractive.
Yes.
Such.
You know, the thing she really values is loyalty. She likes power. Okay.
Yeah.
She likes strength. And she's going to shake this year's draft up because she's looking for a king. All right. And she is going to take Aaron Rodgers.
And he just broke up with Olivia Munn. So that works. Now, see, I was thinking as you were saying those things, Gronk. Like, how about Gronk being the husband of Daenerys? I mean, good Lord.
Yeah, but she already went through that phase. Do you know what I'm saying? I won't spoil it anymore. She's been there. She's done that, okay? So she's taken Aaron at 3. And next is Arya. Again, so many good characters in this show.
Man, I saw a picture of her when the series first started. It was her and, man, what's the redhead's name? The other daughter. Sansa. Man, it's crazy. Like, they were tiny little kids, and now they're like grown-ups. It's crazy.
'Tis true. So when you think about Arya, though, you think about she's cunning, she's quick, she adapts to every situation that she gets.
She's got the little needle sword.
She's the needle sword, that's right, and she's shifty. And when you say those 4 words, there's only one person who comes to mind. That's LaShawn Shady McCoy. So she's taking him in number 4.
What do we say to death today?
Not sure I'll follow that up. Go ahead.
Oh, that's what the guy that trained her how to fight, right?
Yeah.
What do we tell death? Not today.
Not today. All right. In number 5, we have Varys. And Varys, the way
Who's Varys? Who's Varys?
What's that?
Which one's Varys? Is he the bald dude, the eunuch?
Yes, that's him.
Gotcha.
He's got no private parts.
Yep.
And the way that this guy has come to power, you know, he started at the bottom, now he's here. It's because of knowledge. He has spies everywhere. He knows things that we don't. So he's got a surprise pick for us at number 5. Somehow he knows. that Jordy Nelson's going to be the number 1 receiver.
Oh, wow. See, I heard Spies, and I was totally thinking of New England Patriots there because they cheat.
No, maybe later.
Okay.
At number 6 is throwback Ned Stark. Love you, Ned.
Oh, I get so sad.
So sad. Ned, he's high on character players. He likes character. I mean, he likes, honor and those things. And even at the risk of points. And that's why I've got Ned taking A.J. Green. He could have gotten Zeke. But, he's just not into people pulling shirts down and exposing women's breasts like Zeke and all those other things that leprechauns do. But he'll take A.J. Green.
Throwing shots. I love it.
I don't care. Zeke looks like a leprechaun. I said it.
No, I'll tell you this. I don't know if you've seen the meme where it shows Kanye West plus a bee sting equals Zeke Elliott. Because he's just blown up.
Jumping out of that bucket, after he scores a touchdown. It's something a leprechaun would do. All right. At number 7 is Jon Snow, the most lovable character. And
you have to love that.
I mean, he's the best. He's just awesome.
I don't know many things.
And at number 7, the thing is, he values honor, okay? But he's going to draft for the greater good. And I've got him taking Zeke right there, the 7 spot. I mean, he's worked with the Wildlings before. He's gotten down and dirty. He knows how to survive, and he knows he needs to take Zeke there. So I got him at number 7. Number 8.
He's all about winning, so he's going to do whatever it takes to win. And
That's right.
If that includes taking a player off of your least favorite team or a person with bad character, you do what you got to do to win.
Absolutely. That pick makes perfect sense for me there. And number 8 is Littlefinger. He's 5 steps ahead of everybody. Okay,
he's dirty. Dirty.
He's the ultimate chess player. He's figured things out, and somehow he knows that Christian McCaffrey is going to be a top 5 back this year. I don't know how.
McCaffrey.
I don't know why. Christian McCaffrey knows that he's going to be a top 5 back this year. Okay, and I don't know how he knows.
Video highlights today. Ooh.
Hey,
I mean, they're changing their entire offense, and so they have Cam just taking the snap and dumping a 4-yard pass straight out to the side. I mean, the pass it's basically a toss play because he's catching the ball 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage, which isolates him with a linebacker. And so they were doing one-on-ones today. And he was lined up with Thomas Davis, who's one of the greatest linebackers in the past decade. Yep. And he shook him so bad he didn't get within 3 yards of touching him. It was pretty good.
Man, I'm gonna keep my eye on that because I'm praying for him. I like him a lot.
He's good, man.
At number 9, Cersei. Man, what a grueling, deceiving, cheating character. She'll do anything to win.
How does she stay at the top? That's what I don't understand.
I don't know. I think it's cheating. I think cheating and just doing whatever possible.
I think I know who you're going with now that you said that.
This is the red wedding pick. She's taking Tom Brady at number 9.
There you go, man.
She's power hungry. She'll do anything.
Anything. She doesn't care. Kill everybody. I want to stay.
She'll film your practice, okay?
I wish we could get a shame. We should get a shame walk for Tom Brady.
Shame. Oh, my God. You just, somehow created one of my top 5 fantasies.
That's weird. I hope it's not sexual.
It's not, but interpret it as you will. Okay. And the last pick is the White Walkers. They sent a Raven. They decided as a collective they wanted to get in. And it's really just the general. The guy.
White Walkers. I love it.
Yeah. And biggest surprise pick of them all, they're taking Adrian Peterson. And in an interview, they said they're just going to eat his leg and breathe life back into his fantasy football stats. So
that dude has risen from the dead twice already. So we'll see what happens.
Man, don't be surprised if he has blue eyes and he's just truck sticking folks. So that's been the game of fantasy football, and this is episode 6. So if you have any suggestions or anything you think would happen different in Westeros, please go ahead and hit me back at host Chuck B on Twitter. And I'd love to hear any comments that you have or any suggestions. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me that Jaime Lannister spelled wrong, but, in my image, whatever.
So are you going to tweet that out? Will you tweet out a list of the –
I'm going to tweet it out.
All right. That is awesome. So, guys, really appreciate it today. Now, we'll say this, big news. We got Fantasy Couch coming up on a next episode, so pay attention. And if you haven't followed him, go check him out. But we're going to be going over draft tips and common draft mistakes that people make next week. So stay tuned.
Laters on the men, Jay.
Peace.